The Spider-Man games have been a go-to as of late for me, and today I want to break down the Peter Parker versus Miles Morales debate. Now, I understand this isn't really a debate. Peter Parker is far more of someone Miles looks up to. He's more of a role model and a mentor than anything else. That being said, using Peter Parker in the 2018 Spider-Man game, and then shortly after using the Miles Morales in the 2020 Spider-Man game, I felt pretty confident which one I preferred to use if I had to pick. I switched back and forth between the two characters to feel out all of their skills, all of their abilities, and I will say, after playing both games constantly back and forth, I was confident playing with Peter Parker was my preferred Spider-Man experience. There's a few things that may have changed that, but here, let's break some things down. The main things I noticed between the games was that Peter Parker had a faster web sling overall. His movement around the city, to me, from playing the first one to the second one, I was pretty confident in saying that it felt like Peter's overall ability was faster. Now, after actually testing from game to game, I can confirm that's not really the case at all. I think it was just the idea that throughout the story, you get increased speed as you level up with Peter, and you level up far more with Peter. So it seemed like he got increased speed more often than Miles did, which is true, but I think their overall speed is about the same. There are two other abilities I prefer with Peter Parker. One being Peter's double X web zip. As you are web slinging and moving around the city, the fastest way to turn corners, the fastest way to cover ground going forward is by doing a web zip and then being able to do a web zip again right after that. Now, this is something that you gain throughout the story. You don't get both of them right away, but I noticed the second that you gain that ability to do a web zip and a web zip immediately afterwards, I noticed how much quicker you were able to move around the city with Peter Parker. Now, you'll notice this specifically in missions that involve some chasing. You just cover so much ground so fast. And I found when you use Miles, you really miss out on that. Also for Peter is his jump launch. When you gain this skill through leveling up in the story, this was a huge plus in Peter's movement. As you likely know, when timed perfect amidst accurately placed web zips, you can jump launch, and a clouded effect lets you know you did it correctly. This visual and skill earned was something I was extremely hooked to using. Being able to essentially web zip freely around the city was a huge upgrade to Peter's movement system, and jump launching just makes it that much more satisfying. You almost don't even need to swing with Peter's webs. You can just web zip and jump launch constantly, and you'll just see so much more coverage of ground in the game as you use those simultaneously. Now, the goal in this video in testing between both characters, I wanted to try and find pros between each character. Talking a little bit about Peter, and as we get into Miles, I will preface this by saying using Miles was without question my preferred Spider-Man. Starting with his obvious strong points. Invisibility, his camouflage ability. Now, this is an obvious overpowered trait of Miles. Whether you're finding yourself in a battle and you're getting damaged by opponents and you can't recover, all you do is hit up on that D-pad and his camouflage ability is enabled. You can level this up as you get further and further in the game, which basically just lengthens that meter. And it's something I used all the time, especially in those fights where you're just getting attacked from all angles and you're having problems dodging bullets and dodging missiles. Hitting up on that D-pad just allows you to kind of reset, kind of recalibrate the situation, move to maybe some high ground and see where all the opponents are. Just gives you a huge advantage in almost any situation you use it in. Now, that being an obvious overpowered feature that Peter does not have, was so fun to use while you use Miles in Spider-Man. Now, secondly, every single Venom ability that Miles has. Now, you do not know, maybe you're watching this video and for whatever reason, like myself, you didn't touch the Spider-Man games until now, but his Venom ability, basically, he took on these powers from the spider that bit him, and one of them was electricity. Every single attack that you get to use in line with Miles' Venom abilities are extremely fun, extremely effective. Some allow you to attack an enemy with one big power strike, and some will affect a large radius around you, hitting any enemy within that radius. Regardless, every single one is so fun, and the second your Venom meter fills up, you will find yourself using those abilities every single time. And that basically allows you, while using Miles, to take out enemies so much quicker than if you are fighting those exact same enemies with Peter. Now, lastly, this is Miles' ability to spin and flip while web slinging around the city. This was an incredible addition to the Spider-Man series. You'll find if you overuse the spins and flips, it will slow you down a bit, but if you can pair together the perfect mix of speed and flips, you'll be able to move around the city just as fast and with real style. It suits Miles' personality really well, which is why I love that feature in this game. Now, I'll say this yet again, this is less of a Peter versus Miles debate and more of a preference from my standpoint. I did find that throughout both stories, by the end of them, Peter is leveled up so much more than Miles, and it's almost like double the amount. Whether you notice that or not, it's pretty much a setup for Spider-Man 2, considering Peter Parker, again, is more of a mentor to Miles and would naturally have more experience, more skills, and you would think more abilities. That might not be true in the games, but we'll see how they play that out in the Spider-Man 2 game coming out in October.